Have you ever wondered if we're truly alone in the universe? What if the mysteries of the stars were waiting for us to uncover, just beyond the reach of our understanding? Imagine a journey where the very essence of your existence is challenged, and you are invited to step into the unknown, into a world of wonders and dangers, of awe and discovery. This is Lena's story, a story of a young woman drawn to the cosmos, where mysterious lights and alien symbols beckon her toward an unimaginable fate. From the first flicker of a UFO to the cosmic invitation of a lifetime, Lena's journey will make you question everything you thought you knew about the universe. What is it that's calling her? Why is she the chosen one? And what awaits her among the stars? Stay with us as we dive into a story filled with mystery, wonder, and a search for something far greater than what we see with our eyes. Each step Lena takes will draw you deeper into the unknown, making you yearn for the answers that are just out of reach. What happens when you step into the infinite? Let's find out together. The night was unusually calm, as though the world itself had paused, holding its breath. Lena, a 17-year-old girl with an insatiable curiosity about the mysteries of the universe, walked home from her best friend's house. The moon hung low, casting a soft, silver glow over the quiet streets. The air was cool, crisp, a typical evening, but tonight, there was something different, something inexplicable in the stillness. Lena looked up at the vast expanse of stars that seemed to stretch on forever. The constellations sparkled like diamonds scattered across a velvet blanket, and she wondered, just as she often did, what if there's something out there? Something we can't see? A flicker of excitement coursed through her as she whispered her thoughts into the night. Suddenly, her question was answered. Without warning, a bright light sliced through the sky, so intense it momentarily outshone the stars. It moved erratically, darting left and right, too fast, too erratic to be a plane. Lena froze. Her heart pounded in her chest like a drum, each beat louder than the last. The light was mesmerizing, as though it was alive, unpredictable, like nothing she had ever seen before. And then, just as quickly as it had appeared, it vanished into thin air. The night returned to its stillness, the stars twinkling as if nothing had happened. Lena's breath caught in her throat. She pulled her phone out of her pocket, hands shaking, trying to catch a glimpse of the fading light through the screen. But it was gone. Wide-eyed, she stood there, the weight of what she had just witnessed pressing down on her chest. Was that a UFO? She couldn't be sure, but the sensation of something unearthly lingering in the air refused to leave her. Lena stared up at the sky, feeling an odd tug at her soul, a quiet whisper that told her there was more out there, something that would change everything. The days that followed were filled with an obsessive quietness. Lena's room had always been her sanctuary, but now it felt like a universe unto itself. The walls were covered with posters of galaxies, stars, and faded images of aliens, her refuge from the world. Her desk was cluttered with old books about UFO sightings, conspiracy theories, and ancient texts, all scattered like clues to a mystery she had to solve. Sitting at her desk, Lena's fingers moved feverishly across a sheet of paper. The strange symbols she had seen in the sky, the patterns of light that had danced before her eyes, now filled the pages. Circles, lines, intersecting shapes, all drawn over and over again, like a secret code waiting to be deciphered. She could feel the shapes in her mind as clearly as if they were floating before her. The strange encounter wasn't just a passing moment, it had invaded her thoughts, her dreams, her very existence. It has to mean something, she muttered under her breath, the soft scratch of her pencil against the paper the only sound in the room. The symbols didn't make sense, not yet. But they were real. She was sure of it. As the hours passed, Lena's obsession grew. She researched UFO sightings, alien encounters, the unexplained. The more she discovered, the more she felt drawn to the unknown, like a magnet pulling her closer to something beyond Earth's borders. Her phone was filled with photos of strange lights in the sky, mysterious objects from around the world, but none of them matched what she had seen. Her parents began to notice the change. Lena had always been the quiet, curious girl, but now she was distant, consumed by something they couldn't see. One evening, her mother knocked on the door, her voice filled with concern. "Lena, honey, you've been in here all night. You're starting to scare us. Please, take a break." Lena barely heard her, too deep in her thoughts. She didn't even look up from the page where the symbols swirled and intertwined. "I just need to understand," Lena whispered, her voice strained, almost desperate. "There's something more out there. I have to figure it out." Her mom stood in the doorway, watching her with a worried expression. "You're losing yourself in this. Please come back to us." But Lena couldn't. The pull was too strong. It was as if the universe itself had sent a message, and she was the only one who could hear it. The more she searched, the more she felt isolated, as though the world around her couldn't possibly understand the truth she was uncovering. The distance between Lena and her family grew. She began to spend her nights in solitude, sketching, reading, and listening to the quiet hum of her own thoughts filled with the mystery of what lay beyond the stars. She was lost in the search for something bigger than herself. And she couldn't stop, not now. She had seen the light. And now, the light was calling her. The night was still and silent, save for the gentle rustling of the leaves as Lena sat on the cold, damp bench in the park. The world around her was quiet, almost unnaturally so. The darkness stretched out before her, endless and serene. She clutched her notebook tightly in her hands, the pages filled with symbols that seemed to pulse with life. Her pencil had danced across the paper over and over, tracing the same patterns she'd seen in her mind, in her dreams, in the sky. And then it happened. A flicker. A soft glow appeared at the edge of her vision, like the faintest spark. She turned her head sharply, her breath catching in her throat. The lights, the same lights from the night she'd witnessed before, returned. They weren't random, they moved in deliberate patterns, synchronized in a way that sent a chill running up her spine. The lights flickered again, pulsing in rhythmic flashes familiar, like the shapes she had drawn in her notebook, like the language her mind had unlocked. Lena's heart raced. The air around her seemed to vibrate with energy. She could feel the pull of the lights deep within her chest, as though they were calling to her, beckoning her to understand. "Lena," whispering, almost breathless. "It's real. This is it, the message." The lights shifted once more, undulating in perfect harmony, as if responding to her thoughts. They seemed to move just for her, drawing her in. It wasn't like anything she had seen before. It was as if the sky itself was alive, speaking through the lights. Lena stood up slowly, her legs trembling beneath her, her eyes locked on the shimmering display above. The sound of her own heartbeat thudded in her ears, almost drowned out by the soft hum that emanated from the lights. "Lena," softly, as if speaking to the lights. "Are you trying to tell me something?" Her voice trembled, but there was no fear. Only wonder. Only an overwhelming sense of knowing that she had uncovered a secret far older, far deeper than anything she had ever imagined. And then, as if in response to her question, the lights grew brighter, so bright that Lena had to squint, her eyes watering from the intensity. And then, a sound, a soft, melodic tone that drifted through the air like a distant lullaby. It was pure, clear, and hauntingly familiar. The same tune that had echoed in her mind for days, the same melody that she had drawn in her notebook in the quiet of her room. Lena, whispering to herself. I know this. It's the same, from my dreams. The melody filled the park, the air thick with its presence. It was both soothing and electrifying, as if it was speaking directly to her soul, to her very being. The sound, the rhythm of it was a code. A message. And Lena understood. She wasn't just seeing this, she was hearing it, feeling it. The lights flickered again, this time more urgently, and the hum of the melody became more insistent. They were waiting. Waiting for her to act. The next morning, Lena could hardly sleep. The images from the night before, the lights, the melody, the feeling of being connected to something beyond her understanding had consumed her every thought. It was as though the universe itself had whispered to her, urging her to follow a path that she couldn't yet fully comprehend. Her mind raced, replaying every detail of the encounter, the way the lights had seemed to speak to her, to guide her. She couldn't explain it, but deep inside, she knew where she had to go. There was only one place that felt right. Elders Peak, the mountain that stood like a sentinel at the edge of the town. A place whispered about in local stories, where strange things were said to happen. Lena's pulse quickened as she paced her room, the notebook of symbols resting on her desk. Her fingers brushed over the drawings, tracing the same shapes she had seen in the sky, and she felt the unmistakable pull again. The lights were calling her. Her father's voice interrupted her thoughts as he entered the room, his face creased with concern. Lena's dad, worried, raising his voice. Lena, you can't be serious. That mountain. It's dangerous, especially at night. There are things out there no one understands. Lena turned to him, her expression set with determination, a quiet fire burning in her chest. The doubt in his voice, the concern, she could feel it, but she also felt something stronger within herself. Something that couldn't be ignored. Lena, defiant, a sense of certainty in her voice. I have to go. The lights, they're calling me. I don't know why, but I have to. Her father's face fell, his brow furrowing with worry, but Lena couldn't explain it, not to him, not yet. She couldn't put the feeling into words. It was more than just a calling, it was an undeniable pull, something deep inside her that told her this was her path. She was meant to go. Without waiting for another word, she grabbed her jacket and snuck out of the house. The world outside was still, the quiet of early morning pressing down on her like a heavy blanket. Lena looked up at the sky. The stars were hidden by the early morning light, but she could still feel the pull, the lights, the melody, all leading her towards the mountain. She didn't need to see them anymore. She knew where to go. Her steps were quick, determined, as she made her way toward Elders Peak. The road was dark, but the sky above seemed to shift, as though the lights were guiding her still. Each step she took was more sure than the last, and the anticipation, no, the certainty grew with every footfall. Something awaited her up there, on the mountain. Something that would answer all the questions she had buried deep inside herself. She could feel it. The forest was silent, save for the occasional rustle of leaves under Lena's feet. The night air was cold, carrying the scent of damp earth and pine. The trees, tall and ancient, towered above her, their gnarled branches stretching into the sky like twisted arms. The path was narrow, winding through the dense woods, and Lena felt a chill deep in her bones as she walked alone. But it wasn't fear that guided her. No, it was something else, something far stronger, far deeper. The sky above was shrouded in darkness, but even in the blackness, Lena could see them, the lights. Faint at first, flickering in and out of existence like whispers on the wind. Then, as she moved deeper into the forest, the lights became more intense, more real. They darted across the sky in deliberate patterns, like fireflies tracing ancient symbols in the night. Lena didn't need to question them. She could feel their pull, their presence in the air, tugging her forward, leading her. They were guiding her. The lights seemed to dance, weaving through the night sky, urging her to follow. Lena, murmuring to herself, her voice barely above a whisper. "This is it. I can feel it, something is waiting for me." The forest felt alive around her, as though every leaf, every twig, every shadow was part of the secret she was uncovering. Her heartbeat quickened as she climbed higher, the path growing steeper. The cool wind whispered through the trees, brushing against her skin, as if nature itself was acknowledging her journey. The lights above became brighter with each step, more vibrant, filling the sky with their otherworldly glow. With each flicker, each pulse of light, Lena could feel her excitement build. The path was no longer just a trail through the forest, it was a journey into the unknown. It was as though the universe had drawn her here, and she had no choice but to follow, to embrace the destiny that awaited her. The air grew thinner, and with every step, Lena felt as though she was getting closer to something monumental. Something that would answer every question she had ever asked. The lights above pulsed faster now, their glow growing more intense. She could feel the weight of her decision pressing on her, but it wasn't fear that held her. It was wonder. A deep, overwhelming sense of purpose. The summit was near. Lena's breath came in shallow gasps as she finally reached the summit of Elder's Peak. The clearing was wide, and the forest stretched out around her in every direction, vast and unbroken. The night sky hung like a black velvet curtain, speckled with stars. But it wasn't the stars that held her gaze, it was the lights. The lights had returned. This time, they weren't just flickers in the distance. They moved in unison, sweeping across the sky like waves in the ocean. They formed intricate patterns, circles within circles, spirals that twirled in on themselves, lines that bent and twisted in impossible ways. The lights seemed to pulse in rhythm, a cosmic heartbeat echoing through the air, and Lena felt it deep within her chest. It was as if the universe itself was speaking to her, whispering secrets only she was meant to hear. Lena, breathing heavily, eyes wide with awe. This is the place. I knew it. The ground beneath her seemed to hum with a soft vibration, like a distant voice calling out to her. The air shimmered, vibrating with energy. Lena stepped forward, entranced by the lights, as they moved and shifted around her, flowing like liquid fire in the sky. She watched, captivated, as the lights spiraled in a perfect formation, matching the symbols she had drawn in her notebook, the ones that had haunted her every thought. The lights were no longer just lights. They were a language she could understand now. Lena felt a surge of recognition. The symbols, the shapes she had been drawing them for days, the patterns forming without thought. She had been receiving the message all along, but now, standing here on the peak, it was clear. The lights, the symbols, they were the answers. The final piece of the puzzle. Lena, realizing, her voice a whisper of wonder. They're communicating with me. The lights seemed to respond, growing even brighter, their intensity overwhelming. The vibration in the ground deepened, resonating through her very bones, filling her with an overwhelming sense of peace. It was as though the entire universe had come to a standstill, focusing all its energy on this single moment. Lena closed her eyes for a moment, letting the lights wash over her. The sound of the soft hum filled her ears, and she felt it within her an understanding, an acceptance. She had been chosen for this. She had come here for this purpose. The journey, the messages, the dreams, they had all led to this single point in time. And in that moment, as the lights flickered around her, Lena knew. She knew that this was only the beginning of something far greater than herself. Lena's gaze never wavered from the sky above as the lights continued to twist and spiral, converging into a single, massive shape. The stars seemed to dim as the lights intensified, and in that moment, the world around her fell into a breathless silence. The air grew still, heavy with anticipation. The lights swirled in the sky, growing larger and more defined until they formed the shape of a colossal, glowing disk that hovered just above the earth. The edges of the ship were sharp, yet fluid, like the shape of a liquid metal that was constantly shifting. The light emitted from it wasn't harsh or blinding, but soft and ethereal, glowing with a deep blue hue that pulsed with a life of its own. It was as though the ship itself was breathing, exhaling ripples of energy that seemed to resonate with her very being. Lena, in awe, barely able to breathe. They're here. They really are here. The UFO hovered just above the ground, its shape now unmistakable, sleek and metallic, with smooth, undulating curves that defied earthly technology. As Lena stood, rooted in place, the ship emitted a sound. A soft, melodic hum that seemed to vibrate in the air around her. It was familiar, soothing, the same melody. The same haunting tune she had heard in her dreams, the same song that had echoed through her mind in the silence of the forest. The sound resonated through her, drawing her closer. Lena, whispering, her voice breaking. I knew it. I knew there was more out there. Her heart raced, and tears welled in her eyes, but there was no fear in them. Only wonder, pure and profound. She stepped forward, instinctively, drawn to the ship like a moth to a flame. The gentle glow of the UFO beckoned her, pulling her closer with a force that felt both gentle and powerful. The ship hovered in perfect stillness, as though waiting for her. Its surface shimmered, reflecting the distant stars, and Lena could feel the hum of the energy that radiated from it, deep in her chest. The silence around her seemed to stretch infinitely, and for a moment, she wondered if time itself had stopped. Then, slowly, the door of the ship began to open. It was a gradual movement, like the soft unfolding of a flower, the edges of the door glowing with an otherworldly light. As the door opened wider, Lena felt a sense of overwhelming calm wash over her. It wasn't just the absence of fear, it was a sense of peace, as if everything she had ever questioned had finally been answered. Her breath caught in her throat as she took another step forward, the urge to approach becoming irresistible. The interior of the UFO was unlike anything Lena had ever imagined. The moment she stepped inside, she was enveloped by a soft, glowing light that bathed the entire space. The walls were smooth, without seams or markings, as if carved from a single, unbroken surface. There was no visible structure, no sharp edges, just flowing, organic curves that seemed to breathe with the pulse of the ship itself. The air inside was light, almost weightless, as though she were surrounded by a space that defied gravity. Everything was illuminated by a soft, ethereal glow that seemed to radiate from the walls themselves. The light was warm, calming, and familiar, wrapping around her like a gentle embrace. It wasn't bright, no, it was the kind of light that seemed to come from within, as if it emanated from the very heart of the ship. In the center of the room, a figure appeared. It was humanoid, but but something about it was different, otherworldly. Its form was slender and tall, with skin that shimmered like liquid silver, shifting and flowing in the dim light. Its face was partially obscured, as if the features were constantly changing, shifting between shapes that Lena could not fully comprehend. The figure's eyes, if they could be called eyes, glowed faintly, deep pools of light that seemed to pierce through her, seeing into the very depths of her soul. The figure moved toward her with graceful fluidity, its presence calming and yet awe-inspiring. It did not speak with words, there was no need for words. The ship itself, and the being in front of her, communicated with her in a way that transcended language. The same melodic tones filled the air again, but this time, they were clearer, closer, like a song that was meant only for her. Each note carried meaning, each vibration connected to her heart, her mind, her very essence. Lena, understanding, her voice barely a whisper. "You want me to come with you? To explore the stars?" The figure nodded, its movement fluid, like a dream fading in and out of focus. The gesture was simple, yet it conveyed everything: an invitation, a promise, an answer to every question she had ever asked. Lena hesitated for a moment, her heart pounding in her chest. She was torn between the world she had always known and the vast unknown that lay before her. But in her chest, deep inside, a sense of purpose rose. She had been brought here for a reason. She had always known she was meant for something more. The figure's gaze softened, as if it understood her hesitation, and once again, it nodded. The melodic tones filled the room, not with urgency, but with encouragement, with understanding. Lena's fear evaporated, replaced by an overwhelming sense of destiny. She had come this far, and she could feel that her journey was just beginning. Slowly, she took a step forward, moving closer to the being and the invitation it offered. There was no turning back now. The universe had called her, and she was ready to follow. Inside the UFO, Lena stood by a window, gazing down at the Earth far below. The planet looked small, fragile even, suspended in the vastness of space, a swirling marble of blues, greens, and whites. The outline of her home, the small town she had once known so well, was now barely visible. The familiar streets, the houses, the faces of her family, everything she had known felt distant. Her heart ached. Her family, her life, everything that had been so real, so tangible, now seemed like a dream fading at the edge of her consciousness. The overwhelming pull of the unknown, the stars, the promise of exploration, was calling her away. But a part of her heart clung to the earth below, to everything she had left behind. Lena, softly, to herself, her voice trembling. "I can't stay. But I'll never forget you." She pressed her hand to the cool surface of the window, as if she could somehow touch the ground, as if holding on could somehow keep her anchored. The earth, her home, was slipping away, but she knew she could never truly leave it behind. Her eyes drifted from the planet to the stars ahead, now just within reach. They beckoned her, endless points of light shining with 1,000 possibilities. The ship moved silently, gliding further into space, and Lena felt the immense pull of the cosmos around her. It wasn't just a journey through space, it was a journey into herself, a voyage that would reveal everything she was meant to become. The weight of the decision hung heavy in the air. But she knew, deep within her, that this was the path she was always meant to walk. There was no going back now. The UFO sped through the vast, endless expanse of space, leaving Earth behind like a distant memory. Outside, the cosmos stretched out, infinite and eternal. Stars glittered like diamonds scattered across an inky black sea, and distant nebulae glowed softly, their colors shifting in the deep void. The silence of space was profound, almost sacred, broken only by the gentle hum of the UFO's engines. Lena stood by the window, her face pressed against the cool surface as she gazed out into the infinite unknown. The sight was breathtaking, a canvas of stars, planets, and galaxies, far beyond anything she had ever imagined. It was both beautiful and humbling. For the first time in her life, she truly felt small and yet, part of something so much bigger, so much more expansive than she could comprehend. Narration, reflective, as the camera pulls back to show Lena standing alone in the vastness of the UFO. Sometimes, the universe calls us to places we can't explain, to journeys we must take alone. And in that journey, we find not just answers, but the truth about who we are and who we can become. Lena's heart swelled with awe and peace. She was no longer alone, she was part of a much larger whole, a traveler among the stars, a speck of dust in the boundless cosmos, but also something far more, someone who was searching, discovering, evolving. The ship continued its journey, moving further from Earth, its lights flickering like a pulse of life. Outside, the stars moved, swirling around her, as though they, too, were part of a greater dance. Lena closed her eyes for a moment, allowing the peace of the cosmos to wash over her. She could feel the universe speaking, a silent symphony of existence, and she was now part of it. As the camera pulled back, Lena's figure grew smaller against the backdrop of the vast expanse. A tiny human in the endless void, curious, determined, and forever in search of the answers to the mysteries that lay far beyond the stars. The journey had only just begun. And Lena, now free of the world she once knew, was ready to discover all that awaited her in the unknown. The journey isn't over yet. Lena's path to the stars is just the beginning, and what lies beyond is more breathtaking and mysterious than anything we can imagine. But what about you? What do you think? What secrets could the universe be hiding, just waiting for someone to find? The answers are waiting. The questions are endless. And we're only scratching the surface. So, if you feel that pull, that call to explore the unknown, join us on this adventure. Share your thoughts, your theories, and your questions in the comments. We want to know what you think, because the mystery doesn't end here, it's just beginning. There's so much more to uncover, and you won't want to miss a single moment.